Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honourable members, and also the members of our public who are listening in online or on the radio. Kia ora to you all.
Ia koe tama wa tutua, te o mema o te ngutuare matitei, tō tātou istanta, koto e koroma mene I no te ratio, kia ora.
Yesterday afternoon, 176 of our people returned home and are now in managed isolation.
E nana I te awatea, e tai anere I tungoru maono o tō tātou istanta te uki mai, e te roto rātou I te tuanga haraianga MIQ.
All the border staff, health staff, the MFM staff and the Edgewater staff performed their roles diligently as they have done ever since our first repatriation flight last year.
Ko te katoanga o te oronganga, me roto mai I te marae ora, tuanga o te muni e parakoto te oronga anganga o te tuanga o te Edgewater. Ua rave me te ki rātou I tā rātou anganga, me te tā rātou e rave uana, me te tuatou rere anga pai rera hoki.
All the necessary precautions were taken as required as per the previous 3 cohorts.
Kua apai rātou I te au takataka e anga paurua, te akapāpū, e kia meta ki te tūranga mei te tere rere anga mai mua I toru I te amatai tiakani.
At about 11 p.m. last night, the day 0 test result of a 10-year-old boy returned positive for COVID-19.
Mi te tai, mi te ora tengoru matai I Napo, ko te vaito o te rā mua, o te tai tamaiti e tengoru o na mataiti, kua hoki mai te rera e kua kari mai te tai tūranga maki COVID.
Analysis by Te Maraeora of the case indicates a weak positive, which could mean a historical case or a recent infection.
I roto I te hioanga a te Maraeora, e kua kari mai te rera I te tai tūranga paruparu o te maki, e te aiteanga penei e maki takere te me kore e mea o o te.
The person's pre-departure COVID-19 test result in New Zealand, taken on the 30th of November, was negative.
Ko te hioanga o te tamaiti nei, I mua ke eia ka karuke ia nutireni te hio ia I te rā turunga oru o titema.
November.
O titema oki mai te rera e kāra.
Yeah, November, sorry, not December.
November.
However, we are treating the infection as a recent infection.
Nā rā, te akara ia nei, te ia maki ia toe e akamaki anga o ua te.
The positive result came from a PCR test analysed at the Rarotonga Hospital with reported CT values of 36 and 40.
Ko te kakitikiteanga, nō roto mai I te autuanga hio, karanga ia CT, o taita I rere ki runga te tare, toronga oru maono ki te angau.
And our medical professionals are assuming that this is an early infection.
E ko tō tātou orunga kite, nō runga I te wairakau, te tamanako nei rātou e akamaki anga o o te.
The mother of the 10-year-old is fully vaccinated, and his 2 siblings, both under the age of 12, are not.
E ko te metua waine o te tamaiti, tengoru mataiti, e kua patia I aia, e ko tōna ngā tēnara I raro ke I te mataiti tengoru marua, kare rawa I patia.
The family are all contained in the MIQ facility.
E te wakano ia te kōputanga katoto ki roto I te tuanga ara ianga MIQ.
So far, neither this positive case nor the other members of his family have shown any symptoms of the virus.
I te nei, kare atu o te tai mema o te kōputanga nei, ia kari mai o tū rātou I te maki.
They will all remain in MIQ until there is no risk of the virus getting into the wider community.
Ka noo rātou ki roto I te tuanga harai anga MIQ e tai o atu ki te tuatou I akapapu mai, kare e maki e totoa ki roto I te tuatou o Ichitanga.
All of the other 172 passengers have returned negative tests.
Ko te katoanga o te o patete e tai anere i tunga o marua, kua metaki tō rātou akakiteanga.
We have been preparing ourselves for the time we reopen our borders, and our testing regimes have shown the value of that preparation by catching this case at the border.
Kua tapapa ana tātou no te tuatou e akutu erai tō tātou kina pasire e te akari mai nei. Te hiuanga e metaki i tūranga no te mea koroko e tātou te opu i te maki i tō tātou kena.
I want to reiterate that for many months we have been planning for how we handle the border reopening and dealing with any potential coronavirus threats.
Nā ro te kapapu e wa roaka nei ngā marama tātou i te tapapaanga akapea tātou e rave e ake e taimei te maki i roto nei e tātou.
I further reiterate the importance of all eligible members of our population to be vaccinated to give us that added layer of protection against serious illness and possible death.
Ano no te aka te ao ki runga te mana koe, kia patia poru ia tō tātou i te tangata, kia rauka te tai paruranga kia tu, no runga i te maki e pene no te mate.
The vaccine is still available to all eligible people, and once we have the all clear to do so, we will be offering the vaccination to our 5-year to 11-year-olds, protecting them from getting infected by the coronavirus.
Te waine rai, te tikaanga no te wairākau, patia ki tō tātou i te tangata, e me tai ki te tuatou, ka roka e mātou, te tātou te oronga atu i te patianga ki tā tātou tamariki, mi te rima, te ngoru matai mataiti, e paruru i rātou ki kore rātou e tu i te maka.
The ability of this virus to cross borders can be seen worldwide, and that is why border workers wear personal protective equipment and follow infection control procedures at work to eliminate the risk of catching the virus through their work.
Ko te tūranga o te virus ne i te neke arunga i te o kena o ki tere i a teia i roto i te niao. No reira, tō tātou arunga anga i runga i te o kena pasireia i aoi i te o kakao paruru ki a kapapu e kare rātou e tū ia e te maki.
As an added precaution, TMO will be testing all of our border workers who met yesterday's flight, and I will keep you posted if there are any further developments.
E te tai paruru ngā kia tu, kua i o te marae ora i te o ranga paurua, ngā paurua i runga i tō tātou kena pasireia i te arawea tu i te rere anga i nanai, e karokoe aku i te akakite atu, e a te tūranga i te ngaraki mō.
I hope you will join me in wishing the family a speedy recovery.
Ina ke oe ka tau ki mai, tākota i mai koto i a tātou i te orongatu i te taire o marure ki te kopu tangata ki a meta ki wawe rātou.
It is understood that the family followed all the prerequisite requirements in New Zealand and during their travel to Rarotonga.
E ko marama mātou e ko aru te kopu tangata nei i te o takaianga te o ture paurua i mua ke rātou, i nutirene e perakatoa i tō rātou rere maanga ki Rarotonga nei.
The overall analysis of the whole process, including the risk to all the staff who work the flight at the border, during transportation, and at the MIQ facility, is considered low.
Ko te akarakaraanga i te katoanga o te tupu me te rere maanga, te pairere, te onganga te tupu, i runga te kena, e parakoto te onganga te rawe, o rute te ngai akaharaianga, akakarawa te rere.
But all staff will be required to undertake a PCR test on day 3.
Nā rā, ka anono i te oronga anga pōro ke hio i rato i te rātou.
All have been advised of the protocol between now and their test on day 3.
Kua ki te pōro ia ki a rātou i te au ture, mi tēnei e tai o atu ki te rātou.
This is the new normal that Te Marae Ora has been discussing during the public consultations held recently.
Ko tea te ora anga o te akamarama i ana e Te Marae Ora ki te iti tangata.
These public consultations on Rarotonga and the Southern Group, Painua, gave Te Marae Ora the opportunity to prepare our people for border opening.
Nā roto i te iau iriri kapua te maramaanga ki tō tātou itanga i rarotonga nei e parakato te pai noa tonga. Oro koe rato i te pai i te ranga i te akapapa no te akatueranga i tō tātou kena pasirei.
Stakeholder meetings have also taken place with our two other main pillars of our society, the House of Ariki and the Religious Advisory Council.
E parakato te uri-urianga manako kua rawe e tirira i te tai ngā tuanga tango pōpinga rātu o tō tātou pasirei koe oki te areariki e parakatoa te tuanga o te evangeria.
Meetings with the Opposition Office, the Private Sector Task Force, the Tourism Industry Council, Air Rarotonga, Air New Zealand, and other interested church and youth organisations also took place and were well received. It includes the Office of the Prime Minister, the Office of the Public Service Commissioner, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigration, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Management, Crown Law, and Cook Islands Tourism have, since the announcement made by myself of the border opening, continued all the necessary work to get our country ready for the 13th of January opening.
Ko te aka takota ianga paruru i tō tātou kena pasireia, te roto, te opati o te Prime Minister, to te turoto e te tai o tuanga ke atu, manganui o te kawamani mai, kua anganga netaki matationa i te ao tuato nei, no te aka papa i tō tātou pasireia, ki roko e tātou te aka tuere i tō tātou kena i te rā tengoru mātoru o Tianuari.
And of course, part of that work was the amendment to the COVID-19 Act that we all supported and passed during this sitting.
E ko te tai tuanga o te au anga nei te tupu ko ioki tātou i te aka tukeanga i te ture norunga i te maki COVID tengoru mā hiwa ka tātou i aka mana i roto i te mutuari.
Last Tuesday, on the 23rd of November, Cabinet endorsed the request for financial support to stand up the puna systems here on Rarotonga and also a similar arrangement for Aitutaki.
I te ruirua ra rongoru matoru o Noema, rongoru matai. Kua ariki te ruru minita i te patianga no te tai tuanga moni. I aka tūoka o i tō tātou au tuanga urute te au puna o Rarotonga nei e parakatoa i Aitutaki.
These two islands are grouped as one standalone bubble, and the rest of the Paenua are grouped as another bubble.
Ko te ngā enua nei, kua akaputu i rawa ki roto i te tai bubble, o ko tai, e ko te katoa o te o Paenua e bubble ki rai tō rato.
Te Marae Ora is also working with the Puna Leads, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Cook Islands Red Cross in developing a medical care pack and an initial basic welfare pack to support families if and when they are required to self-isolate in their homes.
Te angang kapiti nei te Marae Ora ki te warataki i roto i te o Puna, to te Internal Affairs, e to te Red Cross, i te akanoanga i te tai au tuanga tauturu no runga i te oranga, o te o e turu, i te o kopu tangata, e ake anono i rato ki a harai ia i roto i te rato mutuari.
A medical care pack will also be provided to any visitor and their families, should they also be required to self-isolate.
Ko te iau tauturuanga no runga i te oranga, ka oronga kato i te ere ki te o turoto e te rato o kopu tangata, e ake anono i rato ki a harai ia.
These medical care packs will allow adults in the family the ability to self-monitor and report their health conditions while self-isolated.
Ko te iau tauturu nei no runga te oranga, ka rauka i te o hatere, i te o kopu tangata, i te akarakararai i rato i te kopu tangata, e ke ripoti mai i te tuanga o te Marae Ora.
Training and guidance will be provided by the Puna Public Health staff.
Ko te tereni, te taanganga te amea, ka rauka te reo no roto mai i te oronga anganga o te Marae Ora i roto i te tō tātou o Puna.
The Puna will be staffed by public health nurses, healthcare assistants, security and support staff.
E ka anganga ia te au Puna e te au neti no roto mai te Marae Ora, tō rātou tauturu, te ronga tiaki e te oronga turuturu.
Te Marae Ora has ordered antiviral COVID medications to treat at least 100 people with very severe cases, and this order may be increased to further support our readiness.
Kua oko mai te marae ora I te tai o Wairako Pakari no runga te maki ke roko I rato te rapakau atu e tai anere tangata maki kino e penei ka akamata I atu te ia tare.
The most important factor to reduce the spread of COVID-19 and to protect ourselves, our families and our people is vaccination.
Ko te rawenga pūpinga roatu I te akaiti mai I te totoanga o te maki COVID e te paruru I a tātou e tō tātou koputangata koioki ko te patia paru.
And I am very pleased to announce that the Cook Islands has achieved an incredible milestone of 99% of our people aged 12 years and over have received their first dose of the Pfizer vaccine, and 96% of us aged 12 and over are fully vaccinated.
E aka reka tika eo I te kakite atu e kua rauka I te kuka anani te tai takaianga te atianga pōpinga roatu, ko ioki. E iwa ngoro maiwa patene o tō tātou I te tangata I te matai te ngoro marua e runga e kua tū rātou, ko pāti e rātou I te pātia mua. E iwa ngoro maono patene o tō tātou I te tangata I te ngoro marua matai te ki runga kua pāti e rātou.
The vaccination of the 12 to 15-year-olds for the northern group will take place in the new year.
Ko te pātia paruru o te o tamariki me te tengoru marua ki tengoru marima mataiti no te paenua tokerau. Ka rawe I tīrira I roto I te mataiti o.
And as the Minister of Health alluded to, the third shot for all of our people will become available in the next week, and we will have Rarotonga and Aitutaki covered with their third shot before our borders open.
E me te taiku ia e te minita o te marae ora I mua nei, muake, e o tō tātou I tangata I Rarotonga nei e Aitutaki, ka pātia I a rātou te toru o te pātia ngā paruru I te wik e patonga nei I muake, ka katoera ia e tō tātou kena basire I te rātou ngoru o January.
The Cook Islands will also be introducing the use of in-country rapid antigen testing.
E ko te Cook Islands ka kamata tātou I te tai hi o anga o I roto nei te pasire.
This will give us the ability to quickly test and identify the status of symptomatic people before undertaking full PCR testing should a person be identified positive from the rapid test.
Ka roka I a tātou I te rawe te tai o hi o anga viviki I te akara I te tangata I muake ka anono I a rato te aere nā rato I te tai o hi o anga tei atu e a papu I te rato tūra.
This process will be more cost-effective, non-invasive, and will allow quick surveillance screening for any symptomatic persons, including visitors on Rarotonga.
Te au taka I anga ne, mea mama te rira, kare te e riro te tamana manata e ka viviki te rira, I te hi o anga, I te aronga te tamana ko ia e maki tō rato, e paraka tō, te o tūroto I Rarotonga nei.
The same testing will be applied to any person travelling to Aitutaki and to the rest of the Paenua. A testing area will be established at the domestic departure terminal at the airport.
He ko te ia hi o anga, ka tau katoa te ia ki te tai watu tangata e rere nei ki Aitutaki, e paraka tō te Paenua, e ka katoa ngai e te tai ngai, I te ngai a katoa ngā pairere no te ia hau ngā.
Te Marae Ora advises that our lab at the hospital has been certified and that training of the TMO trainers will be held on the 13th of December.
Kua ka kite mai te marae ora e ko te pia hi o anga o tātou I runga te eramaki e kua tau te rera kua ka papu I te o certify e te e ka kamata te tereni I tō tātou aronga anganga me te rātenga o mātoru mai o titema.
These trainers will in turn train all the COVID-19 health and safety officers on how to administer the rapid test for workplace employees or guests.
Ko te ao aronga ka tereni ia, ka riro rātou I te tereni atu, I te tai aronga anganga, no te raweanga I te au hi o viviki, no te aronga anganga e tō tātou tai.
This means agencies, businesses and hotel accommodation providers will be required to appoint a health and safety officer
Ko te aiteanga te, ka anono ia te o tuonga te kawamani, te o tuonga kimi pōpinga business, te o tuonga otera, noana te o turoto, anono i rato te akano i te tai opita ora, marae ora no rato.
TMO will then train these people on how to administer the rapid tests.
Ka tireni ria te marae ora i te au kaeke nei, a ka pea i te raweanga i te au hioanga vivi.
TMO will remain responsible for testing our local population.
E ko te marae ora nā rato ano ora rato i te hioanga i tō tātou itstanga.
Te Marae Ora is also working with the New Zealand Ministry of Health in developing our digital travel vaccination certificate using the Cook Islands vaccination ID card.
E te angan kapiti nei te marae ora ki tō rātou taeke, o te ora marae ora i nutireni i te anga i te tai rawenga hi o viviki, te tai pepa no tātou, no te tereanga, te akamoia ki runga i te tō tātou card no te patia paru.
This card was introduced earlier this year, and many of our people have already purchased their card.
Ko te pepa card nei, kua kamata i te mō mataiti kua oko takere tō tātou itangata i te au pepa card nei.
However, due to the current development and to ensure the interoperability of our vaccination card with the New Zealand system, a reprint of these cards after embedding the vaccination QR codes for each person will be done at no charge.
Nā rā, no te ao mea e tupu nei, ki aka papue ka nganga tō tātou card ki tō te nutireni, anono ia i te printer o i te o card eri ki aka papue te o karere, a roka te rere te tāru, mate kore e tutaki.
Last month, Te Marae Ora issued a public notice asking everyone who has been vaccinated to submit copies of their passport photo page or a copy of their birth certificate.
I te marama ke nei topa, ko te marae ora, kua tuku atu rātou te tai karere ki te itstangata, ki te o itstangata te patia ia ki tuku mai, ki te tai tutu o tō rātou passport, me kore o tō rātou pepa ano.
This will then enable the TMO staff to confirm that their name matches the one in the TMO MedTech system, and if not, it can be corrected before printing the final digital travel vaccination certificate.
Ka rokeria i te marae ora i te kapapue, ko te o rato ingo rā te, ko te o tangata rā te roto i te rato akapapaanga, ka roko te rera i te akatano. I muake ka printer ko ia i te iau peponi.
And in line with the New Zealand solution, our unique relationship with New Zealand allows us to have the same access as those living in New Zealand to travel to other countries that New Zealand will sign up to.
Ke tau ki te oka tere-tereanga o Nutireni, a rere tō tātou pirianga ki a Nutireni, ke rauka mai e tātou te o tauturu, te o rawenga, te ka rauka e Nutireni, i tō rātou tere-tere atuanga ki te tai o pasire ki atu me akatina mō te Nutireni i teia ki te tai o pasire ki atu.
So again, we are grateful to New Zealand's government and the Ministry of Health for their continued partnership and close cooperation with Te Marae Ora as we prepare and ready ourselves for the border opening.
Tau kia ko tau tātou ki a ka mitaki i a Nutireni tōna kawamani e tōna marae ora. Nō tā rātou tauturu e tangan kapitimenga ki tō tātou marae ora i te kapapanga i a tātou i te tuatau i a katura ia e tō tātou kena pasirei.
The rules will change from the 13th of January. Any Cook Islander returning home who is not vaccinated will be placed in MIQ and will pay the full MIQ costs that will be determined by the Ministry of Finance and the host resort.
Ka taui te o ture me te rā tangor mātoru mai o Tianuare te matai ti ronga oru marua. Ko te tai o atu kuki are, te ka oki mai ki te pasire ne kari pati ia, ka whakano rātou ki rato i te o ngai hara ianga e ka tuta ki rato i te katoanga o te kapōnga muni. Te ka whakano ia e te tuanga o te moni, e para katoa te o te rata rato ka anō.
Other new border travel requirements and the new public health measures for the border opening will be released once the Cook Islands COVID protection framework is endorsed by Cabinet in the coming week.
Ko te tai au ture ki atu, no te paruri tō tātou iti tangata, me akatoera te pasirea, ka akaria mai te rera ki wao me akamana te ruri minita i te epitoma ki moa.
This will be supported by public communications to fully explain and provide to our wider community the understanding of the new requirements ahead of the border opening on the 13th of January.
Ka turu ia tea e te te o kitikitianga ki te katotoa e nā ratu i tō tātou au oire aere i te akamaranga i tō tātou i tangata i te o anono o te tātou e akatuara ia e tō tātou kena pasire.
We as a country have been tested over the last 2 years and we have stood up to these tests and prevailed.
Ko tātou te pasire ko timata i ana tātou i te ngā mataiti e rua e i te tātou nei kua arangatu tātou.
And I have no doubt we will continue to be tested in the coming year, and I have no doubt that we will continue to prevail.
Areo ko e koko ngai ka timata ua i arai tātou i te au mataiti e tūmai nei e kare katoa au e koko nei e ka manui o aturai tātou.
And may I finish, Mr. Speaker, with a verse that I have used often in our journey over the last 2 years from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7.
Me ka rako e ako e wātutua me te tāpenga ki a taiko mai, te tai irawa tāko e taiko ana i tātou e muri, noroto mai tirera i Timoteo rua. Pene tai irawa itu.
And it goes, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kare te toa i oro mai i tātou te tai wairua mataku. Mani rā, kite e te ngākau toa. Me taki e te wātua toa.
Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister.